What is going on, guys, and welcome to CSS Grid and CSS Flexbox project. In this project, we're going to be creating a website for imaginary car company, fast and faster. And we're not going to be using Bootstrap for this. We're going to be only using a stock CSS, right? So which would be Flexbox and Grid, right? So this is going to be for the actual layout. And obviously for all the styling, we're also going to use a CSS. Now, what we're going to be building in this project? Well, first we're going to start with a navbar, right? And you can see that navbar is going to be responsive, the same as the rest of the page. That you can see that once we go to the smaller screen, right, we actually have a different layout. And over here, with the help of jQuery, with a little bit of help of jQuery, over here we're going to actually have a toggle button, just like you have with the Bootstrap, right? But like I said, we're not going to be using Bootstrap. Over here, we're going to apply a little bit of transition, CSS transition, to get this hover effect. Then after that, like I said, once we go to a bigger screen, right, this is what we're going to have. And we're going to be using a CSS Flexbox to actually place these links exactly in the center over here. Then once we're done with the navbar, you can see that as I'm scrolling down, the navbar is also going to be fixed, right? So it's always going to stay as we're scrolling up and down. Then we're going to have a banner with a logo, with a heading over here, subheading, and over here these are going to be font awesome. And we're going to be using a font awesome 5, not 4.7, right? Just to see how we can actually start working with a newest font awesome. Then after that, we're going to have a services section where we're going to have a background image that's also going to be same fixed as for the banner, right? To get this parallax effect, as you can see, right? And over here, we're just going to set a text over here with a font awesome side by side, again using Flexbox. But over here, we're just going to use a regular CSS margins to place them over here on this left side. Then after that, we're going to have a project section where again, we're going to be using CSS Flexbox and CSS Grid to place these images side by side and to have this little hover effect, right? You can see that I'm going to actually zooming in as I'm hovering. And over here, there's a dark background behind the image, right? So over here, as you can see that as I'm going to the smaller screen, right, that is the responsive. It goes to 2 images. And then once I go to totally small screen over here, it's actually going to be 1 image. Then after we're done with a project section over here, we're going to have a About Us section where again, we're going to use a CSS Flexbox to place this container exactly in the center and then keep working and actually place this container in the center over here of the second one, right? So basically we're going to be nesting Flexboxes over here. Then after that, we're going to have just a little filler section where again, we're going to be using a background, right? So background fixed property for the image. And over here, this is going to be a contact section where we're going to have a 3 forms. So name, email, and over here we're going to have a text area to leave the comment. And over here we're going to do a submit. And again, we're going to be nesting Flexboxes over here. And the last, we're going to have a footer over here all the way in the bottom. So enough of me talking. Let's start working on this project. Now, before I can start typing away a HTML code and CSS rules and values, the first thing that we would need to do is we actually would need to do our project setup. So here I'm going to minimize this for now, and I'm just going to create over here a new folder. And over here, I'm going to say that this is going to be a fast and faster. So I'm going to rename this folder, and I'm going to say fast over here and faster over here like this. And once we're done with this, I'm just going to grab this folder. And since I'm using the brackets, I'm just going to drag this folder over here to my text editor, right? And now it's just going to complain that there's nothing in there. And the first thing that we would want to do is we would want a new file. I'm going to say index.html. And once I have the index.html, I'm actually going to have over here a HTML skeleton. So I'm going to add a full HTML skeleton right away, right? So once we're done with this, let's just add that this is going to be English. Let's say that this is going to be a recording, right? Because there's going to be a 2 pages side by side. The finished project, and over here, this is going to be our recording one, right? Now, once we're done with this, we can actually, I'm going to open up right away a live preview over here. and set them side by side, right? So over here, this is going to be my folder and my HTML. And over here right away, the first thing we can do, we can create a main CSS for all our rules over here. And obviously we would need to link it, right? So we have a link over here, and I'm going to say main CSS over here in the href. Right away, we can actually create a comment, right? So this is going to be a main CSS. Then after that, we're going to have a Google fonts over here like this. And then we're also going to have a font awesome, right? So font awesome over here, right? So right away, let's add these 3 comments so I don't forget to add something, right? So what we would need to do right now, right? We would need to actually go and look for where I have all the documents, right? So here we're going to start with Google fonts. Now here, the easiest thing, again, we're going to go to Google and we're just going to type Google fonts over here. As simple as that. So over here, once we have the search over here, and you can see that what kind of options we have, right? So over here, you can see that this is going to be Rubato, and let's say this is going to be iBioRhyme. So you can knock yourself out and really choose whatever font you would want. Now I'm going to stick probably with the general ones that they offer right away. So let's say we're going to go maybe with this Mukata. All right, so I'm going to just say over here, family selected, and you can see over here that that's what they're saying. That's the link we would need to include. So I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to go back to my document. I'm going to go to Google Fonts. Over here, paste the fonts, and next what I would want is font family. Right, and what I'm going to do right away, I'm going to add just for the whole body. So over here, I'm going to say body, and we're just going to copy and paste font family Mukta Mahe. Right, I hope I pronounce it correctly. Now, once we're done with a Google Fonts, right, we can close this one over here, and now we need to start working with Font Awesome. And like I said, Font Awesome has a new version number 5 over here, right? And that's what we're going to be working with, right? So over here, you can download it right away over here like this, or we can just read get started, right? So basically what we should do. And over here, there is a option of using the CDN, but I still, well, I don't know, but I believe that you really need to sign up or something like this, right? And since we don't want to do this over here, at least that was the case in older versions, so I think it's probably stays the same over here. So the easiest version, actually easiest way would be to download it, right? So we can right away click over here, download, and over here there's actually explanations how we should do. And the difference over here with the previous version, that we're not going to be using actually a CSS, right? We're going to be actually using a Font Awesome All JS, and you can see that this is in a JS folder, and this is over here in SVG with JS. So if we go over here to our downloads, right, we have our zip over here, and if we open it up over here like this, then we need to look for SVG with JS, then JS, and now we would need to look for Font Awesome All JS. So let me just double check, right? So that's the correct one, Font Awesome All JS. And what I'm going to do over here, I can just copy or I can move it. So over here, we're just going to say copy, and I'm not going to be creating another folder over here, the JavaScript folder. I'm just going to paste the item over here, right? And over here, like I said, you can see over here that you need to use a script, right? So what I'm going to do over here, I'm just going to grab right away a script. So I'm going to say over here, if I'm going to go to my document, and if I'm going to look for a Font Awesome JS over here, right? Font Awesome All JS. So I'm going to say over here script, right? And over here we're going to have a source, and this is going to be Font Awesome All JS over here like this. And then just to test it out, let's write I over here, and then we have a fa. However, the difference with this newer version, right? So let's just say if we're going to go back to icons, right? Over here within icons, and let's say that usually the one that we always, well, at least I always test it out is home. Right, so if we click it over here, home, over here like this, you'll see over here that you have, instead of fa home, you have actually s over here, right? So that might be confusing for somebody who has been using a lot of time, right? And you'll see that for a different icons, there's actually going to be different, right? For a Facebook, there's going to be FAB over here, and there's, I believe, 3 or 4 ways, right? 3 or 4 options over here, what you have with this FAS. And over here, we're going to write that this is going to be FA. We're going to write home over here like this. Press tab, and sure enough, we have our font awesome icons. Like I said, if you want to explore further, right, of what are the changes, right? Over here we have a how to use, right? Over here it says how it works. And again, pretty much everything has stayed the same in a sense that we have the same class. Of course, now you have way more options, and you can see that they're pretty much bragging that they're using SVG, which obviously is better performance, right? But over here, you can see that we have a solid, right? Regular, light, and FAB over here, right? So this would be for the brands, and this is what I'm saying for the style prefixes, right? So you have basically like 4 options over here. Now, after that, once we're done actually with Font Awesome, we can close this one over here, and where we're getting the photos. And the photos, again, there's pixels and there's gradistography. Those would be 2 choices that I would suggest. These would be a lot of funky images in the gradistography, and pixels have a nice library with a lot of images. So if I write over here cars, which is, that's exactly what I did before, right? To find images, you can see over here there's going to be tons and tons of images with the cars. So this would be the case for the images. So I'm going to close the images, and then we have colors, right? And for colors, we can do color hunt, where basically the options are set up right away for us, right? Or here you can see that as I'm scrolling, right, it pretty much tells the colors, and this gives us 4 colors that would actually match really well together, right? And over here we have an option of new, hot, popular, random, right? So again, plenty of choices and plenty of options. Or we can go with good old coolers over here. So if we go over here with the coolers, what we would need to do is start generator. Over here it says that it is free, and over here what we would need to do is press spacebar over here like this, and you can see that we have tons and tons of options also, right? And if we want to copy them, we can copy the colors. If we want to lock one of them over here, right, we can actually lock one of them, so it's also an option. So again, you shouldn't be struggling with the colors with the options that you have these days, right? So even if you're not big on colors, you can always find some kind of color option. And that covers our project setup section. When the project setup is done, we're actually ready to start working on our first section. And over here, this is probably going to be our longest section because there's a lot of moving parts. We're going to have a navbar. Then over here, we're going to have a banner over here like this. And both of them are actually going to be a children element for the header, which we're going to set as a flexbox. Then over here, we're going to set this navbar as a flexbox also, right? And over here, the banner itself, right? So like I said, there's going to be quite a few moving parts, but once we get through this section, I think you'll have no issue whatsoever to ever work with a flexbox. So let's start working over here with our first section. And what I would want to do over here, let's say we're just going to delete this, right? We don't need this font awesome. We know that it's right there, right? And over here for the body, the first thing we're going to create a comment, and we're just going to say this is going to be the header. And we're just going to select the line, copy the line, right over here. This is going to be end of header, and over here, what we're going to write. Well, we're going to start, like I said, with an actual header, right? So we're going to say a header element, header over here, and within the header, we're going to have the actual banner and a nav, right? So we're going to have a nav over here, and we're going to have a banner. So here we're going to write that this is going to be a div with a class of banner over here like this, right? And this is what I was saying, that the actual header over here is going to be styled as a flexbox and is going to be styled as a flexbox column. This is going to be using whatever space it needs, the navbar, and this is going to be using a flex grow property to actually grow as much as possible, right? And I'm just going to write like this just so you understand that right now we have header, which is going to be a flex parent container. Then these are going to be children. And then each of these children, we're also going to set them as a flexbox containers themselves, right? So there's going to be quite a few Flexbox nesting. And over here with a nav, the first thing that we're going to start is we're going to say that with a nav, we're going to have a nav container div, container over here like this. And within the nav container, we're going to have our logo, right? So over here, we're going to create a image over here like this. And then we're going to say over here that this is going to be a source, right? And what I would want to do right now, I would want to actually get my images. And once I have my images, I'm going to say source over here like this. And then you can see that this is going to be my logo, right? So I'm going to right away get this logo over here. And over here, I'm just going to write that this is going to be alternative. This is going to be name image. And once we have this one over here, once we have the image, still in the same container, we're going to have a div with the class of btn over here. And then we're going to say that this is going to be 3 bars over here. So I'm going to say bar over here, and I'm just going to copy and paste this line. Right, so 1, 2, 3 over here. Once we have this, the next thing that I would want to do is we're going to look at where this div ends over here. And if we want, we can use a beautify actually to actually make it a little bit prettier, right? So we can actually see better. So this div ends over here. And now still in the nav, we would want a unordered list. So we're going to write over here unordered list item over here. And then we're going to have a 6 items over here. So we're going to write over here that this is going to be a unordered list. Then within an ordered list, we're going to have a link over here, right? So href. And over here, we're just going to say that this is going to be 6 of them, right? So we're going to multiply them by 6 over here. So over here, we'll write multiplied by 6. And once we have over here our list items and we have over here our links, then over here, we're going to place hashtags over here like this. Once we have the hashtags, next thing that I would want to do is I'm going to write that this is going to be home link. Then we're going to have a services link. Then over here, this is going to be our work link over here, or we can call this projects, whatever we would want. And over here, we're going to say about, let's say us. Then this is going to be a contact. And over here, we can just say that this is going to be, I don't know, book online, right? This is not going to be a section that we're going to actually include, but just in case we can have over here book online over here. Maybe, you know what, let's write over here project section. So let's change it. Let's just write over here projects. And once we have over here this nav, now the next thing that I would want to do is work with the banner, right? But again, I'm going to repeat myself, but just remember that this is one item and this is the second item, right? And the header is going to be the parent, right? So that's going to be important once we're actually doing all the CSS styling. And over here, since this nav, right? I'm sorry, since this banner is actually going to be a parent, Flex parent himself, we're actually going to have a div over here that's going to be a banner center. And basically, I'm using this to group all of them, right? Because I'm going to have quite a few items, like 3 or 4 over here. But when I'm actually centering everything, right, I just want to deal with one element, right? I don't want to deal with, let's say, 3 or 4 of them. I just want to have one element and just work with that element. And over here, again, we're going to have a image over here. And again, source is going to be the same thing, right? So we're going to repeat the logo over here, right? Because as you can see over here, I have for the small screen, right? You can see that we'll have 2 of them. So if I'm going to go down here, right? So we have a small logo over here and the bigger one over here. So once we have this, now what we want to do is, again, we're going to write over here image over here. And the way we're going to work over here, we're going to have a heading 1 over here. And the heading 1 is going to say company over here. Then you can see I pressed it in the wrong place, right? Now we're going to have a company. Then we're going to create a span over here like this, right? So we can just write that this is going to be a span. And the span is going to have a class. And over here, just let's name this class and. Now this is not going to be the most original name, but let's just stick with that, right? And over here, we're going to say a amp. And I'm going to say and over here, right? So what we would want to do is we're going to write a amp. And over here now we have a and sign over here like this. And then what we would want to do is create a little bit of space, and we can create space over here also. And still within this heading, we're going to say co, right? So we're going to write company like this. And then the next line would be a heading 3 over here like this, heading 3. And over here, we're going to say this is going to be car shop, let's say for fanatics. Over here, press tab. Now we have a header 3. And then still within a banner center, let's place a icons, right? And for this, I'm going to have a div, and I'm going to say this is going to be banner or here icons. Once I have the banner icons, now what I would want is to have is a links. So here we're going to have 3 links. So I'm going to have a link, and within a link, let's say over here, we're going to have I, right? And this is going to be FA and FAB over here this time, and FA over here, right? So I'm just going to leave it open like this, right? So we open this one up, and what I would want to do is just copy and paste this, right? So I'm going to have 1, 2, over here, 3 of them. And over here, the first one is going to be Facebook, over here, F, like this. Next one is going to be Instagram. And after that, we would want a Pinterest. So over here, Pinterest, over here. And we're just going to say Pinterest P over here like this. And once we have our HTML setup, we're actually ready to go to CSS and start styling. Now that we are in our main CSS, over here we're going to start right away styling this unordered list. So I'm going to say over here nav ul over here, and I'm going to say list style type, and we're going to say none, right? Just to get rid of over here these annoying bulletin points. And then what we would want to do is actually set all the elements to margin and padding 0 to get rid of a default margin and padding. So I'm going to say margin 0, padding 0 over here like this. Then once we're done with a unordered list, now I would want to work with a link. So I'm going to say nav ul a over here. And the first thing that I would want to do is actually I would want them to be not inline elements, but actually spanning all across. So I'm going to say over here display, and we're going to say block over here, right? So you can see what happens that as I'm hovering even over here, you can see that I'm affecting the link right away, right? Then after that, we're going to do a background. So we're going to do a background over here. I'm going to write hashtag, and this is going to be the black color. So this is going to be 0D, 13, and 17 over here like this, right? So this is going to be the background for all of them. Then after that, we're going to have a padding, 20 pixels, right? So you can see that padding is going to be left and right, and top and bottom, right? So everywhere around is going to be 20 pixels. Font size, 17 pixels over here, right? So it got a little bit bigger. Then we'll have a text decoration to get rid of these underlines, and we're going to say none over here. And then we have a text transform, and we're going to say uppercase, right? So then they're going to be all in capital letters. So we go over here, and this is going to be uppercase. Then after that, we would want a color, right? So this is going to be text color. This is going to be A over here, D34, and over here we're going to have a 3E, right? So this is going to be this red color over here. And then we're going to do a transition. So basically, as I'm hovering, I would want a little bit of padding, right, on the left side, so text move a little bit right. And then we would want a background to change, and also the color, right? And first with transition, we need to say which actually properties we would want to affect. So first I'm going to say color property, right? Here, this is going to be duration, right? So if I have a color over here, now it says how long this transition is going to take place, right? Because what we need to understand is that even simple hover, that is a transition. However, when we usually set just hover, it happens instantly, right? What we're saying is we are okay with this change. We want the change, but we want change over time. This is what this 1 second stands. And then we have an option of ease over here. And ease pretty much what means is that how the actual transition is happening, right? Is it starts slow or actually finishes slow or starts fast? I mean, you have options there, right? But I'm just going to go with a pretty basic one. I'm just going to go with ease, right? And then after that, we have another option, which would be delay, right? And we're not going to be using this, but I'm just showing you that you can write, let's say 2 seconds or whatever, or 10 or 0.5, right? Now I'm going to be using all the time 1 second because I just find it easier for 2 reasons. First of all, you can see that the animation is happening, right? And then I don't need to deal with 0.5 because then I can place a comma or anything like that. But in most cases, you're probably going to use something less than this, right? So I usually do 2 or 1 seconds, right? Just so I can show you that the animation is happening. And then once we have the ease, over here, next property, we're going to say background. And just follow the syntax that you need to place a comma over here, right? So don't write like this. This doesn't make sense, right? So next one is going to be property. And I'm going to say again, 1 second ease, right? And then we'll have a padding, 1 second ease over here. So 1 second ease, right? So now I have these 3 properties in my transition, right, as values. And what I would need to do over here, I'm going to say nav ul a over here, but here we're going to add the hovering, right? So I'm going to say hover. So as I'm hovering, now I would want the transition to happen. First, I'm going to say background, hashtag 474747, right? Then I would want a color, and I'm going to set color to hashtag E over here, 0. Then we're going to have another E0 over here, and then we'll have CE over here, right? So basically what's happening is, you can see over here, right? As I'm hovering over here, right? I haven't still added a padding, right? But you can see that the change actually happens over time, right? So let's say, again, let's say 2 seconds, right? Just so you can see better, right? So we're going to say 2 seconds, and over here, we're going to say a padding. We're going to say left, and let's say we're going to say 30 pixels over here, right? So we can save this guy over here, and now you can see what happens, right? The change is happening over 2 seconds, right? The text is changing, and the actual padding is changing, and this is how we can get this hovering effect. Now, once we're done with this, we actually would want to start dealing with this container, right? With the one that was actually on the top. Remember this guy over here? Right, we had a div, the actual container, right? And over here, first things first, we're going to set image smaller, right? So I'm going to say nav, and this was the class container, over here image. And again, you have 2 options. You can right away, as you're downloading, right? You can crop it somewhere, right, and make it smaller. Now, this is not obviously the most preferred version. What I'm doing, right, when I'm basically saying that this width over here is going to be, let's say, 100 pixels, right? So probably the best case scenario, you would want to crop it somewhere else, right? Just to kind of save time and show you that it can be done in document. I'm showing you, right, that this can be done this way, right? But probably better way would be actually crop the image somewhere, right? Whether it's in your actual Photoshop or somewhere else, right? So now that we have this, right, the image is smaller, right? That's what we wanted. Then what we would want over here, we're going to say over here nav container. So now I'm dealing with the whole container, and I'm going to say padding 0 over here and 20 pixels, right? So I want only padding left and right over here, right? So these would be the 2 spots where I want it. And then once we have this, we're going to say a background, and over here we're going to say hashtag F74747, right? So this is going to be our gray color over here. And then after that, we're going to have 2 things. We're going to have a display flex and space between. Now I'm not going to add them right now because I want to place the button, and I want you to see how it actually looks without flex. All right, so we're going to see a border, 3 pixels, solid. Over here, we're going to have a border bottom actually, not just border. So border bottom, and over here again, we're going to use the red color. So since we're not using SAS, obviously I don't have variable, and that might be a little bit annoying, right, for you, because we're going to have to retype them. Obviously, if we would have some kind of processor, then we could actually just type a variable and keep using it. So here we have a red color, and now you can see what I have, right? So I have a border bottom. Then what I would want is actually create this button, right, to create this bootstrap lookalike. So I'm going to say bar over here. Then I'm going to say over here that this is going to be width, right? So remember we had over here, right? We had a button and 3 bars. So technically what I'm doing is I'm styling each and one of them, but we're going to style all of them right away together. 30 pixels over here. Then we're going to have a height of the line. 3 pixels over here. You can see over here, right? So you can see my lines are starting to become reality. Over here, I'm going to say margin 7 pixels, right? So push them away from each other over here like this. And then now we would want a color, right? And what we would want is a background over here, background. And what we would want for the background, we're going to say over here that this is going to be a hashtag A, and then we'll have a D. And basically what we're doing is we're using again the same red color, right? So 343E over here like this, right? So now we have our bars over here. Then what I would want is actually border around. So I'm going to say over here that I would want a button over here. So now this is the parent container, as you can see, right? And for this button, I would want a padding all around 2 pixels over here like this. And it's going to be better seen when we actually have it flex, right? Because right now you can see that it's stretching all across, right? But we're going to fix that. Over here, we're going to say display, and we're going to say inline block, right? So first you can see that this is going to be my inline block now. Then we're going to say border, and over here for the border, we're going to say 2 pixels, solid, over here. And again, we're going to do the same thing, right? So we're going to be reusing this red color, so I can just copy and paste, right? So if I click over here, now you can see that I have my navbar lookalike, right? Now what I would want to do is go back and, like I said, dealing with this flex, right? And the first time that we're going to be using the flex in the actual project, right? So I'm going to say display flex, right? So right away, both of them side by side, right? Okay, no big deal. Then the next thing that we would want to do is we're going to say justify content. And over here, we're going to say space, and we're going to say between, right? So now we actually got them away from each other, right? Now what I would want to do over here is to go back to this button over here, and we're going to say over here align self, and we're going to say center over here like this, right? So now we have over here this element set in center, and now we need to go back to the image, right? And we can say over here the same thing. We're going to say align self over here, and we can just say center over here like this, right? And now both of them are actually working, right? Both of them are exactly how we want. Now over here, the case is over here, you can see that the button is not working. And also what you can see is once we actually load, right? Let's say once we go to the smaller screen, you can see that right away my links are appearing over here like this, right? And that's not what I would want, right? Once we actually add over here this toggler button, once we go to the smaller screen, I would want the links to be gone. And then when I press the toggle button, then they would show up. So how we would do that? You see over here this nav UL for now, right? What we're going to do is we're going to say display none. Because we have styled them, right? You can see how we can actually style these links, right? We can say over here, I'm just going to say that this is going to be a display, and we're going to say none. And once we're going to add a toggler button, right? You're going to actually be able to see better how the toggler button works, right? So now that we're done with this actual section, now the case would be to actually start working over here with this header, right? So now over here you can see that we have a whole header. Now I would want to style this one over here. So what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to go in the bottom, and here what we're going to say. First, what we're going to say is this is going to be a header over here like this, and we're going to say min height, and this is going to be 100 view heights over here, right? And I need to set this value, right? So just so it has some kind of option for the height, right? For the height and width. Then once we have this over here, I'm going to use a background, and for the background we're going to be using image over here, and we're going to say that this is going to be a header background. And usually you can see that this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm just going to be naming my images according to where they're going to be used, because that just makes a little bit more sense. Now over here you can see that I have this car. Now what I would want to do is I would actually want to place this image correctly in my background. So here I can say background, and I can say over here position, or here, and I can just say center. Then the next one I would want is a position background size. So I'm going to say background size, and I'm going to say cover. Right? So basically this places the image in the center. This is saying it doesn't matter how big the actual div is, this image should cover it. Then after that, we're going to have a background repeat, because we don't want to background to repeat, because it actually, if it doesn't have enough space, it's actually trying to repeat itself, right? So I'm going to say background repeat. We're going to say no repeat over here. And then we're going to have a background position fixed. So here we're going to say a background, and over here we're going to say attachment fixed. And the reason for this, as we're going to be scrolling over here, we're going to be getting over here this parallax effect, right? So as you can see, as I'm scrolling, the image stays fixed. However, the text is moving, right? So this creates over here this parallax effect. And you can see over here, we also have the same thing. So this was for the fixed. Now, obviously, what we can do is we have a shortcut version. So if I delete this, and over here, I'm just going to start a new line, but basically I'm writing after this parenthesis, right? So maybe let's make this smaller so you can see actually better, right? So over here we have, first what we would want to say is center. Then we're going to say cover. And the rule is you need to write, first of all, this position, then size, and you need to separate them over here with this forward slash, right? So this is going to be a proper syntax. And over here, it doesn't matter about the order, right? We can just say that this is going to be, let's say, fixed, right? So it knows that this is going to be attachment that is fixed, and no repeat, right? So we obviously have a shorthand version, right? We can write it the long way, which actually kind of explains to us what we're doing, but we can write a short way also, right? Now you can see that I have over here my header. Now what you can also see is, right, that we can actually start using this header, right? And when I say header, I mean nav and banner included. And I actually want to style it as a Flexbox container. So I'm going to say flex, display, flex over here, right? But I don't want them to be side by side, right? Because now flex direction is actually row. So what are we going to say over here? Flex direction, and we're going to set them as column, right? So over here, this is going to be set as column. Then we're going to go back over here. We're going to say nav. And since this is the child right now of the header, what we're going to say is flex. We don't want it to grow. We don't want over here to shrink. And the actual flex basis should be auto. All right, so whatever it is, whatever we have with the paddings and with the actual elements, that should be. However, here, we're going to say for the banner, we're going to say like this. We're going to say flex. And over here, we're going to say grow as much as you can. Right, so basically what we're saying is, you can see over here this banner, right, in our document. This guy, right? So this was the second parent, right? You should grow as much as you can, right? Because you have only 100 view heights over here. So nav is going to take as much as it needs, and the banner is going to take rest of it, right? That's why it's important over here to use this flex and grow. And we're going to say flex 0 for shrinking. And over here, we're going to say auto, right? So there's not going to be no flex base value. And the reason why we're doing this, because now we want to set this text over here in the center, right? Over here, what we're going to do, we're going to say display flex over here like this. Then we're going to have a justify content. We're going to say center over here, right? So now I can see I'm moving in the center. Align items center over here, right? So now I placed it vertically in center. And over here, we're also going to text align center, right? To move these inline elements also over here in the center. And now we're pretty much done with the banner. Now we would only need to style over here this heading 1, heading 3, and the font awesome. So we're going to say over here banner, heading 1, over here. And we're going to say font size, let's say 50 pixels over here. Then we're going to have a text over here, transform. This is going to be uppercase over here like this. And then we're going to have a color. Right, so over here we're going to say color, and we're going to be using the red color. So if I believe this is correct, right, we have over here, this is going to be our color. Now what I would want to do over here for this banner, I also would want to have a banner heading 3. So I'm going to say banner. This is going to be heading 3 over here like this. And we're going to have a text transform. And this is going to be capitalized over here like this. And then we'll have a font size over here. And font size is going to be 30 pixels over here like this. And the color is going to be hashtag 0D 1317, 1317 over here. All right, so this is going to be our color. Now what I would want to do is over here, you see this header background, you can see how bright it is, right? And what I'm going to do over here is we're just going to make it a little bit more interesting. And we're going to use this linear gradient, linear over here gradient. And I'm going to write it in front of the URL, right? So basically what I'm saying for the background, have both linear gradient, comma, over here, and URL. And what would be the linear gradient? And over here, I'm just going to write a color, and I'm going to write RGBA over here, and another RGBA. So there's going to be two of them. And over here, I'm going to place basically as a background white color. So I'm going to say 255, 255, 255. But here, you see this A stands for opacity. So how transparent it is. I'm going to say 0.3 over here, right? Now, once we have this one, we're going to do the same thing over here. So I'm going to write 255, 255, 255, which stands for a white. And over here, I'm going to place 0.3, right? So right now what we had, you can see we added a white overlay, right? And again, we can change these colors however we would want, right? So if you don't like it, you can say quick edit, and you can just pretty much choose whatever you would want to choose, right? You can see how the color is changing, and actually we can also use the transparency, right? So one of the ways actually would be using, let's say, the red color that we're using over here like this, right? We can place it over here in this RGBA, and we can actually have the same color, let's say, with a different opacity as a background. So that's going to be one of the ways how we can do this. But I'm going to leave right now with a white one, right? Or another option would be going totally black, which would be 0, 0, 0, right? And again, this would be opacity. So obviously over here, you can see the transparency. If I go, let's say 0.9, right? You can see the top is totally totally white, right? Because the transparency is pretty much set to 0.1. However, if I go over here and actually set it to 0.3, right, you can see that it's very, very transparent. Now that we're done with this, let's have a banner icons, and let's actually work over here with a nav after that. So I'm going to say once we have a banner heading 3, now we would want to style over here this and. So I'm going to say class and over here, color, hashtag F5, F3, F5, over here like this. This is going to be the color. And then we would want a banner icons. So I'm going to say over here, banner icons over here. And we're going to say that we would want a padding to be 20. Right, so let's say over here, we're going to delete this. And we're going to say padding. And let's say this is going to be 20 pixels. Right, so padding all around 20 pixels. Then once we're done with this, we would want a style over here, these links. Right, so we're going to say over here, banner icons. And this is going to be the link. Now, what we would want for the link, display inline block over here. We would want them to display it as a block. Then we would want a font size. So we're going to say font size 30 pixels over here like this. Then we're going to have a background hashtag 474747. All right, so this is going to be our gray background. And then we're going to have a padding 5 pixels over here, 10 pixels. All right, so 5 pixels top bottom and 10 pixels over here. Then what we would want is a little bit of margin to the sides over here, right? So I'm going to say margin 0, 10 pixels over here like this, 10 pixels. And then we'll have a border radius, and this is going to be 50% over here, right? So we're going to make them round like this. And then we're going to have, again, the color. The color is going to be hashtag F5, F3, F5 over here like this. And again, we're going to do a little bit transition. So here we're going to say transition. We're going to say color over here, 1 second, ease, and let's say transform also. Right, so this is going to be another property. We already know how to do the color, and this is actually going to be transform. And I'm going to say 1 second, ease over here, right? So now what we would want to do is we would want banner icons A for the link hover, so banner, icons, A, and we're going to say hover. And over here, we're going to say that first the color is going to be red. So again, we're going to have a red color. So I'm just going to copy this one over here. And then over here, we would want a transform. This would be the other property that we would want to set, transform. And transform, we're actually going to have translate. So over here, you can see that I forgot a semicolon, transform. And over here, we're going to say translate, and we're going to say Y. And over here, the Y is we would want actually vertical direction. So I'm going to say negative 10 pixels. So we're going to go over here, and you can see what happens as I hover, right? First of all, the color changes, and it actually goes up and down, right? That was the translate Y. Now, there's also going to be the case where as you're actually, you can see over here, as I'm scrolling down, right? I want this navbar all the time to be fixed on top, right? So the way we do this, right? I'm going to create a new rule. Now, obviously, I can go back over here and do the same thing, right? I just didn't want to mix them up so you can see actually separately what's happening, right? So I'm going to say nav over here. We're going to say position, and we're going to say fixed. Now, once we do this, you can see what happens, right? So now we have position fixed. Now over here, we're going to say width, and we're going to say, let's say 100% over here, right? And now we get back again 100%. Now the key is over here. There's going to be the cases when you're actually scrolling down, right? And there's going to be the cases where actually the navbar disappears, right? So just in case this doesn't happen to you, right? You can write over here z index 10. Right? And you'll see the project that you're working on, let's say how it happens, right? So basically you're scrolling down, and because it's in a position fixed, it's going to go under some elements, right? And that's not what you want. You always want to see your navbar. And in order to fix this, you will need to use a z index. And now that we're done with styling the header, now we're going to add over here the jQuery button over here, right? So this is going to be the actual functionality. And after that, we're going to actually add a styles for when we're actually going to a bigger screen, right? Because now you can see that we're still styling mobile first. This is going to be our small screen. But we need to style it so it actually looks like this, right? On a bigger screen over here like this. Now, like I said, for the functionality, we would need a jQuery. So over here, we're just going to write over here that this is going to be Google, and let's say CDN. Google CDN, and let's say jQuery over here. We can download obviously jQuery, but I always find this one is a easiest way for us to actually add it to our project. So here what we're going to have is a script, and we're just going to copy and paste this. We're going to go back to our document. Then we need to go to index.html. We're actually going to go all the way in the bottom, right? Or here all the way in the bottom of the body, or here, and we're going to copy and paste this. And we have two options. We can write it over here, our function in script, right? But that probably wouldn't be the most proper way. I mean, it would work, but the most common way, obviously, we would create another JS file, right? So over here, I'm just going to say new file. And we're going to say script.js. And now what we would need to do is actually link this, right? So over here, I'm going to say this is going to be script.js. So now once this one is linked over here, let's just check it out over here, whether everything is working. And I'm just going to say alert over here, and I'm going to say hello. And so whether we have actually linked this right now, you can see that everything is fine. So what we can do over here, we can just delete this, right? So this annoying alert wouldn't be popping up all the time. And what I'm going to say over here, I'm going to use a $sign, right? So once we have the actual jQuery, we use this $sign. And over here, we write a, let's say what we would want to select. And I would want to select the whole document. And then over here, I'm going to write a function ready, right? So basically what I'm saying is that I would want my code to run only if the actual document, the HTML, has been loaded. Right, so over here we're going to say function, and we're going to make this an anonymous function over here, and it will going to have no parameters for now over here, right? Now what we're saying is now we would want our code to run, right? So first we're just going to select, right? So we're selecting a document with a $sign, and over here now we're going to run the code. And over here, what should happen, right? So once the document loads, right, we would want to select is a button, right? Because this button has a class of button, right? So now I'm selecting the button. And over here where I'm going to say that this should be a click event, right? Over here. And what should happen as I click? Well, as I click, I'm going to create another anonymous function over here. And again, right, we can name them, right? And in the case where you actually have a long document, you should definitely do this. But since we're going to have like 3 lines of code, it doesn't really affect, right? So how we can see everything, we know what's happening, right? So basically what we're saying is once we click the button, what should happen? And over here, I'm going to say that again, once we click the button, we would want to select again nav UL, right? So this is the parent container for all the links. And over here, I'm going to use a slide toggle. And what slide toggle pretty much is, it's a toggling up and down, right? And over here, we have an option of duration, right? And over here, I'm going to write 3000, which stands for 3000 milliseconds, which is actually 3 seconds, right? Over here, we can save this over here. And since I don't want to break the live preview for the brackets, we're just going to go back over here and close this. And you can see this is going to be my recording, right? So basically, as we open up our own index over here, right? So once we open it up side by side, this is the finished product, right? And this is the recording over here. And now once I refresh, right, over here, now you can see what I have, right? So this is actually the slide toggle. Now in the next video, we'll obviously need to make it responsive, right? Because we don't want for the big screen over looking like this. What we want is this kind of look, right? But the actual functionality works, right? So as I'm over here clicking, everything is working fine. And let's say if we minimize this over here like this, and then we, let's say, go to really small screen, right? Everything still works, right? And everything is fine. And remember that fixed, right? Now we won't going to be able to see navbar fixed because we have nowhere to move right now. We haven't added any sections, but that one is also working. And once we're done with adding jQuery functionality, let's go ahead and let's actually style this so it is responsive. For the bigger screen, the navbar would be looking a little bit different. Now let's go to our HTML and let's actually style this. And I'm sorry, to our main CSS, not HTML. So over here, the last one was nav. So what we're going to do over here, we're going to create a big over here space so it can actually work over here. And we would need a media query. So I'm going to say media, screen, and over here, we're going to write that this is going to be min width. Over here, let's say 776. So what we're saying is that the moment the screen is going to be 776 pixels, right? Some things are going to be different, right? And now we're going to actually add these rules of what things over here like this, right? So curly braces. And over here, the first thing that we're going to say is that we actually wouldn't want this nav container over here, right? So you can see that as I go to the bigger screen on the final one, right? You can see that as I'm going over here, you can see that actually nav container doesn't exist over there, right? So what I'm going to say over here, nav container over here, I'm going to say display. I'm going to say display none, right? The same way how we work actually with the links, right? Remember when we had the links over here, nav UL, and we actually set it display none, right? So originally what we said is they shouldn't be appearing at all. However, once we're using a slide toggle, you can see that they're actually appearing. So now we're doing other way around. Once the screen actually is going to get bigger, right? These actually, the button and the logo are actually going to disappear, right? So we have this display none over here. Then after that, what we would want is we would want a nav over here, nav UL, nav UL over here. And we're just going to write over here that this is going to be flex over here, display flex, display, and we're going to say flex over here. And let's check it out what we have so far, right? So we have the recording. That's the one that we're working on, right? And over here, you can see that I have this flex over here. Now, what's going to happen is that we haven't still styled it, right? You can see that they're not actually appearing the way we want. However, there's right away one issue, right? So let's say I go back over here, right? And I toggle it back over here like this, right? So basically I hide this nav UL. See what happens, right? Actually, my whole nav bar actually disappears, right? However, if I go back and if I leave it out, right, it's gonna work fine, right? So if I go back over here, now you can see that the actual nav bar is showing, right? However, if I toggle it back in, and if I go to bigger screen, it's actually gonna disappear like this. So what we would need to do over here is display flex, and we need to write important over here, right? And once we save this, and once we refresh, now you can see that I have it. It doesn't matter whether I hide it or not, right? I can go back up, and over here I can hide it again. And if I'm going to go to bigger screen, it's still going to appear, right? So that's why it's important over here, write this display flex important. Basically, this is going to overwrite. Then once we have display flex important, we need a flex, and we need a flex wrap property. So basically, as the screen is going to get smaller, the link should be wrapping, not just disappearing somewhere, right? Then once we have this, we would want all our links in a center. So I'm going to say justify content center over here. And after that, what we would want is actual background. And over here, we're going to have a background like this. So background over here. And then we're going to say semicolon or colon RGBA. And over here, this is going to be 13, 19, over here, 23. And this is going to be 0.8 over here. This is going to be the opacity. This is how transparent it is. Basically, this is the black color that we're using over here, right, for the colors, and we just added RGBA. So what I did is you can add, copy and paste this black color that we used before over here. And obviously now I cannot find it, but over here, this color, you can copy and paste, do over here the quick edit, and you can actually change it to RGBA, right? Because obviously this was a flex color, and now, I'm sorry, hex color, and this is RGBA over here. So this gives the transparency. And now what I would want is actually change it. Remember how links had the background on the small screen, right? So the links were the ones with the background. Now what I would want over here on the bigger screen, I would actually want to flip it around. So I'm going to say nav ul l a, and over here what I'm going to say that the background is actually going to be transparent over here, right? So for the bigger screen. So again, we can save this over here, and let's see what we have so far. Again, I'm going to refresh over here, and now you can see that the background is the one that I actually added for my whole nav ul, right? But the actual links have no background whatsoever, right? They still have this hovering effect, and that's the next thing that we're going to do. So over here, again, let me create more room, and now I'm not going to save it right away. I'm just going to save it at the end. So I'm going to say over here that this is going to be nav ul a, and we're going to say hover over here, and we're going to say background. This is going to be transparent over here like this, and over here what we're going to say is padding left, and we're going to say 20 pixels. And if you remember, 20 pixels was our default one, right? Remember when we had the link, right? Padding was 20 pixels anyway, right? So what we're saying is don't do the padding, right? So the link should actually stay, they shouldn't move. And we can save this over here like this, and we can just check it out what we have, right? Now you can see that we have a links. You can see as I'm hovering only the color is changing. The background is transparent anyway, right? So we have contact book online, right? And they're sitting exactly in the center. We're using the flex. However, as we go to the smaller screen, now they look like this. However, they're not actually disappearing, right? So as we toggle back in, they actually still show up over here, right? And now we have tackled probably the hardest part of this project. Now we can move on and actually work with a next sections. The next section we're going to be building is going to be services section over here, right? So again, we're going to have a background image, and this is going to be fixed. And over here, we're going to have a services on the left side. And again, we're not going to be using a Flexbox for this. We're just going to be using the good old margin property over here in CSS. However, to set them side by side, we're going to be using Flexbox. but the whole div placing on the left hand side, we're not going to be using Flexbox. So let's go over here, and what we can do with an index HTML, we can right away find where's the end of header. Or here I'm going to say this is going to be services, and what we're going to do is we're going to copy and paste the line over here, right? So we're going to select the line, copy and paste it, and over here we're going to say end of services, end of services. And once we have the comments over here like this, and the reason why I'm using the comments is just way better to actually group the code over here, and the same over here when we're using the header, right? You don't want to use 10,000 divs, right? Div after div after div, because it doesn't make sense and it's not actually semantically correct, right? So what you want is whenever you're starting a separate, let's say, section, right? I'm grouping my code with the section, right? It doesn't have any particular actual importance apart from semantically, right? However, it does place the code separately. So again, you don't have div after div, like let's say 3,000 divs with some kind of ID, right? So basically this says that this is going to be a separate section, and within the section, usually what I do is actually I have a article where I, let's say, add a class or something like this, right? So here what we're going to have is a section, and the section class is going to be services over here. Then once in the section services, what we would want is to actually create a div service, and we're going to say center. So services center, and this is going to be used just for centering the elements. I'm going to press tab over here, and then we're going to have an article, and the article is actually going to have a class. So I'm going to say article, and then we're going to have a service. So the article class of service, basically if this was plural, these are services, this is going to be each an individual service, right? So each of these is going to be individual service. And over here in this article, we're going to have a few things. First, we're going to have the actual div, because we're going to place the icon separately from the text. So what we're going to say over here, that this is going to be div service, and we're going to say icon, press tab. Then over here, this is going to be FA, and remember that it needs to be FAS. We're going to say FA wrench over here, wrench over here like this, press tab. Now over here we have our little icon. Then since this is a div, this is going to be over here a service text, press tab. And within the text, we're going to have a few things, right? So heading 3, then this is going to be, let's say, excellent repair. And we're going to say repair over here like this, press tab. Now we have the text, which is going to be the heading. And then we have a paragraph. And over here within the paragraph, we're going to write a lorem. And if you want to write a dummy text, right? Again, I'm using a brackets extension, but you can obviously download the dummy text from the internet, or again, like I'm doing with a actual extension, right? And if we write lorem, and let's say over here, we can say how many words we would want, right? So 15, 10, let's say 5, right? So over here, let's go with 10 and press tab over here, right? And over here again in curly braces, we're going to have our text. So now that we have one service icon, what I would want is actually copy and paste this, right? So we can just select one service, which is going to be one of these articles, just copy and paste it 2 more times, right? And here what we would want to do is just change the text and change the actual icon, right? So if this one was wrench over here, this one is going to be actually car, and then this is going to be space shuttle, right? Over here we're going to say space, and this is going to be shuttle over here like this. Then text wise, this is not going to be excellent repair. This is going to be, let's say, we're going to say newest cars over here, and this one is going to be a striving for more. So we're going to write over here striving for more, and hopefully my spelling is correct. So once we have this, we're actually done with HTML, and now we're ready to start styling this in the main CSS. So I'm going to close over here this toggle button, right? So the links actually disappear. We can save over here index.html. We can go to main CSS, go all the way in the bottom over here, and let's say over here we're going to say that this is going to be hashtag services over here, services over here. And you can see that again my spelling is not the best one. Once we have the services over here, then we're going to start applying the rules. And for the services, the first thing that I would want to do is we would want to style whole thing, right? So the whole container, section container, right? That was services. So I'm going to write services over here like this. And then we're going to say minimal height over here, 80 view heights over here like this, right? So now you can see right away we gave it a preset height. Then we're going to use again the background. And over here we're going to say URL. And I'm going to say images. And again, I'm going to find where is my services. So I'm going to go down over here. And I have services background. Right? So now I can see that this is going to be my background image. Now, again, we need to do that thing where we actually place it. So I'm going to say center first. Then we're going to use cover. And again, you can see that we're using a /. Then we're going to have a fixed, because again, we want it to be a parallax effect, right? So as I'm hovering over here like this. And then over here, we're going to say that this is going to be no repeat. No. And we're going to say repeat over here. No repeat over here. Now there's a few things that I need to do. First, I would need to have a display flex, and then I'm going to have align items. And this pretty much sets the text in the center. Now the problem is I haven't added the color over here, right? So let me go back over here, and I'm going to say for the service, so for each and every service over here, and you can see that how the brackets is selecting this, right? We're going to say color, hashtag F5, F3, F5 over here like this, right? And now we can go back over here, and again, let's look. We already know what is display flex, right? But let's just comment this one out again, right? Now you can see this one is on top, and over here now it's in the middle, right? So basically we're lining it up vertically. Then for the service, you see that we have an icon and we have a text, right? And like I said, we would actually want it to have it side by side, right? So what are we going to say over here? Display flex, right? Now they're actually side by side. And now what we would want to do is actually have a margin in between them, right? So we're going to say over here, margin 40 pixels, right? So pretty much we have margins all around. We have top, bottom, and over here on the sides. Then the next one that I would want to style is actually service icon. So we're going to say over here, service icon over here, right? And you can see that it's right away selecting this div. And over here, first thing what we would want to do is you can see how everything is stretched out, right? You can see that icon is basically because these are flexed, and by default, the service children are stretched. What we're going to say over here is align, self, and we're going to say center, right? So now our icon is exactly in the center of a paragraph. And of course, it works the opposite way, right? If the icon would be 10 times bigger and if we would want to place the text, we're going to place the text in the center. So font size over here, we're going to say 60 pixels, right? And you'll notice that I'm usually sticking with some kind of value that is easy to remember and it's actually showing what's happening, right? Whether it's the best choice graphically, probably not, right? But at least we know what's happening. And I don't want to use values like 33 or something like this because it just, I find it really annoying, right? You rather want to stick with some even values, and if you don't like something, you can always change it. But at least we see that the actual property is working. Then after that, what we would want is, after font size, we would want a margin. I'm going to say margin right. Margin right is going to be 20 pixels over here, right? So we're just basically pushing them away over here, right? We're pushing away a text from the icon. And then we're going to have a border, and we're going to say radius, and that's going to be 50% over here, right? So there's going to be border radius all around. And for the border radius, what we want is actually a padding, 20 pixels, right? So now that we actually added a padding, right? But we still cannot see the border. Well, what's wrong? Well, we actually need the actual border. So here, what we're going to say is 3 pixels, solid, and we're going to use the white one. So it's going to be F5, F3, F5 over here. Now you can see everything works, right? So this was the last one, was the border radius, which made it round like this, right? Now, what we want to do is have a service. I'm going to say text heading 3 over here like this, and we would want a text transform, and this is going to be uppercase. We'll set them up uppercase, and now we would want to work on the actual paragraph. So service text paragraph over here like this, and for this we're going to say line height, right? Because we would want some space. And again, we can go drastically with 2, we can go 1.5, right? Just with 1.5, probably we cannot see it as much as we would want. So let's go with 2. Again, you can always change it to something smaller if you don't like. And over here, maybe let's have a little bit margin in between the heading 3. So I'm going to say over here, margin top over here, and that's going to be 5 pixels. Right, so we pushed it a little bit away. Now that we're done with this, we're actually ready to have it, the responsiveness, right? Because if we save this over here like this, right, and you can see that this was our recording, right, and we can refresh the page, we have saved everything, right? Now what I don't like is that paragraph is always going to be stretching over here, right? So you can see over here, if we're going, right, you can see that it's always going to be, text is going to be all the time like this, right? And actually, I don't like that. And what we're going to do over here, we're going to add a media query. So we're going to say over here, media, screen, and over here, we're going to say min width over here like this. And for this one, we're going to say 576 pixels over here like this. Once we have this, we're going to have a services. We're going to say center, right? And what I'm saying is for the div, right? Remember, we had this div that was actually a parent container for all of them, right? We placed all our articles in this one service. And what I'm going to say over here is I'm going to say that this is going to have a width of 70%, right? Over here like this. What's happening is that what I'm saying is that the moment I get more than 576, the width is going to be 70. And by default, it's going to be placed in the center. I'm sorry, to the left side. If I would want to place it in the center, we can always use margin 0 auto like this, right? So if I go back over here, refresh, right? You can see now it's sitting in the center. But actually, I don't want this, right? Because I want actually to see this part of the picture. So what I'm going to do over here, I'm just going to delete this margin. I'm just showing that that would be one of the options that you could choose. And the next one, we would want another one, media query, right? So we're going to say over here that we're going to copy this guy. Over here, copy and paste, and we're going to say 776. And over here for 776, we're actually going to work with a services center, and we're going to say that this is going to be 50% over here like this. So then we're going to save this, and then we're going to refresh over here, and now you can see what's happening, right? So here I have 50%. However, if I go to a smaller screen over here like this, right? Now you can see that this is going to look like this, right? So this is one of the ways how to fix it. Now, if you want to really go deep into this, right, we can also do it like this, right? So we have services center, but you can also say services text over here, and let's say paragraph, right? And what we're going to say is width is, let's say that we're going to use, let's try 70% and see how it looks like, right? So now the paragraph should actually be over here, more lined up, right? So maybe let's check it out one more time, right? So now as we're going over here, right, now you can see the paragraphs are spanning. Now as the screen gets bigger, right, also 50% get bigger. So if you really want, maybe we can try 50%. Right, and again, you can play like this all day long, right? It's really up to how you would wanted them to look like, right? So obviously for the bigger screen, right, it's not going to be the prettiest view. However, if we're going on these screens, right, you can see that they're not actually going to be spanning as much. So it's really up to you how you actually like your paragraphs, right? You can add one more rule, right? So let's say for 992, you're going to have a services, let's say over here, text. And you know what? I actually messed up. We don't need services. We need service text. So let's check it out right now. Now you can see that now I have my 50%, right? And you know what? Let's do actually 70, because then this was actually working, right? So let's refresh. And now we have a full paragraph over here like this. Then we have 576. And over here, we can see that maybe even this one is too big. Like I said, you can spend all day like this, and probably it's not the best waste of your time, right? So not the best way to actually spend your time. So let's just leave it like the way it is right now, right? And we're just gonna deal, if you don't like something, you can always deal with it later the way you would want it, right? Now we're ready to move on to our next section. And the next section we're gonna be building is gonna be over here, the project section. We're gonna have few things going for us. First, we're gonna have images. You can see that we're gonna be using CSS Flexbox and CSS Grid. We're gonna look at both ways how we can actually set them like this. And then we're gonna have a simple zoom in with CSS. And over here again, we're gonna use the same background. Right, so we're gonna apply linear background. However, it's going to show only as we're hovering, right? So let's go ahead and let's actually look at how we can do that. So again, this is going to be the main CSS. Over here, what we want is index.html. And over here, if this was end of services, over here, we're going to say that this is going to be project. Then we're going to copy and paste this line, this comment. We're going to say over here, end of project. Then once in the projects, we're going to have the actual project section. So I'm going to say section, class of projects. And if you noticed over here, we have this title, right? So let's create the title first. So here, what I'm going to say that this is going to be another comment. So I'm going to write title, and over here title. Because the basic idea is, let's say that if you would want to actually copy and paste this title, and let's say reuse it, right? Maybe in different sections, you can just write it once, style it once, and then just change the actual value of HTML, right? You don't need to restyle every time the title. So we're going to say over here, title, over here like this, press tab. Now we have our div. Then this is going to be heading 2. And over here, we're going to write projects. So this is going to be projects over here. Then we're going to press tab again. Now that we have a project, let's do a title underline, right? So if this was title, I'm going to do title underline over here. Now, once we have this, you can see that this is an empty div, right? So we're going to style that line over here in the actual CSS. Then once we're done with the title, then we actually need to place the images. And it's going to be very, very simple. We're going to have a div. We're going to say over here projects. We're going to say center over here like this. Then within this div, we're going to have an article. And we're going to have a class of project over here. Once in an article, we're going to have a image over here. The source of an image, I'm going to go to a folder where my images are located. And again, you can see that I have 5 over here images. I'm sorry, 6. Right? Image, projects 1, projects 2, and so on and so forth. Right? And over here, this is going to be our first image. And what do we need over here? Let's say I'm going to write that this is going to be car. And again, we're going to select this article. And now we need to copy this 5 times. Right? So this is going to start with 6. Then this is going to be 5. This is going to be over here 4, 3, and over here 2. And this pretty much sets up our HTML. So we can save this. We can go back to main CSS, and we can start styling over here our project section. So the first thing that we would want to do over here, we're going to make a comment again, right? So hashtags, bunch of hashtags. We're going to say projects, and again, bunch of hashtags over here like this. Now let's create more room over here like this so we can see better. And we're going to say class projects, right? So what we would want for the actual section to happen, right? First, we're going to say padding. Padding 0 top is going to be, then we're going to have 0 on the right side. And the bottom, we're going to say 100 pixels, right? So over here like this. So basically here, this is the padding we're talking about. Over here, this one. Then next one, we would want a background. So I'm going to say hashtag F5, F3, F5. So this is going to be white, grayish background. And then let's start over here with this title. So I'm going to say title, heading 2. So first, font size, 40 pixels. Right, so bigger font. Text align, center, place it in the center. Text transform, uppercase. Right, so now it's uppercase. And then the color, let's do the gray one. So hashtag 474747. Over here like this. Then we would want a title underline. Title underline. Over here like this. Width, right? So this is going to be the div that's not showing right now, right? And let's do this way. Let's do actually right away a background, right? So we can see what we're doing. So background, we're going to use again the red one. And you can see that now I am copying jQuery over here. This is not what we want. We actually need to get the red color. And let's look where it is. Where in our document is our red color. Copy and paste this over here, come back, and over here this is going to be the color. But again, we cannot see it right now because we need to add width and height. So let's start with the width. Right, so width, let's say this is going to be 100 pixels. Right, still cannot see it. Height, let's say 4 pixels. Right, now you see over here this line. Right, so we got our title underline. Let's say margin, 10 pixels. Right, top bottom. But on the sides, let's do auto. So we're going to go auto. So now I have projects, title, underline over here like this. Then after that, we would want for the whole title, we're going to say title, and we want padding. Padding is going to be 50 pixels, right? Top, bottom, and on the side 0. Right? We don't need any padding over here. That's going to be fine. And now we are actually ready to start working with each individual project. So I'm going to say over here, projects, and first we're going to start dealing with these divs, with the images. So I'm going to say image, and the easiest way is to set the width 100%. Right, so now you can see that they're spanning over here like this. Right, so the width is 100%. This is how they are going to be actually responsive. Now once we have the width of 100%, you'll find once you start dealing with images, this annoying over here, this white line in the bottom. Right, so in order to actually get rid of it, we're going to say display and we're going to say block. Right, and now you don't see any line. Right, so now you can see that they're stacking one on top of each other. So let's again comment this, right? And if we go back over here, right, you can see this white line, and it's uncomment, and now you can see with the block it actually disappears. Then after that, what we would want is actual project. So project, so now I'm dealing with an article. What I'm going to say over here is a background, and we're going to say linear, and we're going to say gradient over here like this. Once we have a gradient, we're going to use a black color. So RGBA, again, 0, 0, 0, which stands for black, and opacity is going to be 0.9. So almost completely black. And over here, again, this is going to be RGBA, and this is going to be 0, 0, 0.7. Or, you know what, let's do 9, right? And again, this is going to be one of the things that I cannot show you right now, right? So you can see nothing is happening. But that doesn't mean that it's not working, right? We just need to add some few more rules, properties, values to actually see this. So how do we see this? First, let's go back to image over here. And I'm going to say very simple. I'm going to say that this is going to be transition. And we're going to say opacity, right? Which is transparency of the image. again, 2 seconds ease, right? The same as how we would work with other properties and values. And also let's do transform over here. And again, this is going to be 2 seconds ease over here like this. Now, once we have this, let's do projects, and let's do image over here like this. And not just image, let's do hover over here. Here we're going to say opacity 0.3. So basically what I'm saying is, in order for this image as I'm hovering, the transparency should become very transparent, right? So almost 0.3. 0 would be totally transparent, totally see-through. And the way it works is over here, right? Now you can see as I'm hovering, you see this black background? This is over here, this linear background, right? So if you were going to get rid of this, the actual image is just going to become blurry, right? The opacity is going to change, but the background is not going to be there. Now you can see that we have the background, right? So that's why we had over here this linear background, and now we can actually see it. And another one that I would want is, let's say I'm going to say as I'm hovering cursor, I'm going to say pointer, and then I would want to create zoom in effect, right? So here what I'm going to say that this is going to be transform, and you can see over here that we have this property here, right? We had it with transition. And I'm going to say again that this is going to be scale, and if I want to zoom in, I need to be more than 1. And if I would want them to be smaller, I would want less than 1. Right? So let's say if I would want to zoom out, I'm going to say 0.5, and you see what happens. Right? The image over here is scaling back, right? And now you can see the background, right? The black background that we have. Now, what I'm going to do is opposite way. We're actually going to do 1.3, right? Something like this. So now it's actually, you can see that it's going to be zooming. Now, the difference is now, as you can see, they're scaling and they're actually sitting one on top of each other, right? You can see how they're zooming in. Now, in order to fix that, we're going to go to the parent container, which is an article, right? Because remember, the image is sitting in an article, right? Which is a class of project. Over here, we're going to say overflow, and we're going to say hidden over here. Press, save it. Now see what happens. Now you can see I'm zooming in. However, the image is not actually changing the size because the parent container has the overflow hidden. And now, once we're done with this, we're actually ready to use the Flexbox to actually have the responsiveness, right? So as the screen is changing, we're going to have more than one image side by side. Here we're going to say media, screen over here, and over here we're going to say min width over here. And for 576 pixels, what should happen? Here we're going to say that this is going to be projects center over here, and we're going to say over here that project center, which is a div, right? Remember, this was the div again that was holding all of them, right? So again, we have a parent container and we have a bunch of children over here, articles. And over here, what we're going to say is projects center display. I'm going to say flex over here like this, right? So if we're going to go back over here to recording, and over here, if we refresh, right, this is display flex, right? So this is how they were going to right away display if we just set the flex. Now the problem is obviously that there's going to be the flex wrap, right? So as we're going over here, right, now from the bigger screen, right, they're just going to be lining up all the time like this, right, side by side. Now what we would want to do is we would want a flex wrap, right? So first we're going to say that for the article, right? So let's check it out. Let's say project, right? So now we're dealing with the children. If this was a parent, this is the children. For the project, what should happen? What we're going to say is going to be flex and grow 0, shrink 0, and calc, which is going to be the function. I'm going to say 50% minus, and you know what? No, we're not going to do minus. We're just going to say 50%. So let's check it out, this guy over here. Again, we'll save this, and let's see what we have, right? Now the problem is, like I said about flex wrap, what's happening is they are 50%, right? But look at this one, another 50%, another 50%, right? This is probably not the look that we want, right? That we can actually scroll left and right like this, right? What we would want them to be actually here side by side. And that's why we're using a flex wrap. Now let's check it out. Let's refresh this guy. You can see over here, right? Side by side, because now we're actually using the flex wrap property. And since this is not the only thing that we would want, let's say like this, right? Let's copy this guy over here, copy and paste. And over here, this all stays the same, right? For the project center, we already set the rules for the smaller screen, right? So for 776, it's still going to be the same thing, right? So we can just delete this. However, the thing that we want to change over here with this project, right? We don't want them to be 50. Let's do 33 point, and let's do 3333, something like this. Save it, refresh. Now what's going to happen is the moment we get to the bigger screen over here like this, and you know what? Let's not do 776. Let's do 992. Let's save this, refresh. Here it's still going to be 50%. However, as I'm scrolling up, right now we have 3 of them, right? And again, they're doing the wrapping, right? They're not, I cannot scroll over here, right? Which is good, of course. Now that we have set it with Flexbox, let's actually check it out with the grid. So I'm going to comment this guy out over here and comment this guy out over here. All right, so now this is going to be the Flexbox. Now let's do the grid. So I'm going to do media, screen over here, and over here we're going to say min width over here, 576 again, pixels. Then we're going to again say project center, because that is again the parent container. Center over here, and over here we're going to say display grid. And I can tell you right away, I'm not going to be using over here the vendor prefixes, because once you're actually going to be doing the project that you're trying to be selling or anything like that, you're going to apply them yourselves, right? Because once I'm actually showing, I don't want to have, let's say, 3 more lines of code unnecessary and then explain every time what it does and what it doesn't do. So in order to make it less confusing, we're not going to be using vendor prefixes. And over here, we're going to say grid, template, and we're going to say columns, right? So we're going to say columns. And here we have very simple, right? So 1 fraction, right? Again, we have the same thing. We have 576 and 1 fraction. So let's save this. And let's check it out over here, how it looks with the grid. Now you see with the grid, by default, it creates rows. Right, so we have 1 row and right away other one, right? Again, we're not scrolling anything, right? So technically, it also we use less lines of code, right? We need to have the flex wrap or for the project. And what we're going to do over here is we're going to copy and paste this. Copy and paste this. Again, we're going to do 992. 992. Display grid is already set. We don't need this. However, for a template columns, right, we can write a little bit differently, right? Since we don't want to name all the columns, we're going to say repeat. Basically, what I'm saying is repeat function, right? And over here, how many times? 3 times and 1 fraction, right? So basically, divided evenly, right? So 1 fraction is going to be divide the screen in 3 parts evenly over here, right? Again, we save this. Refresh, 992, we have 3 of them side by side. And again, it really depends on what you want to use, right? You could technically use a Flexbox. Now, there's going to be obviously layouts, right, that are not going to be so straightforward, right? There's going to be image that's going to be spanning over here or maybe over here, where I would suggest actually using the grid, because it is much more easier, especially with grid template columns and grid template areas, right? You can, let's say, do it a little bit faster with a little bit headache. But if you just have a straight up layouts, right, you really have a choice. And obviously Flexbox is more supported right now, right? So more browsers support actually right off the bat the Flexbox than the grid, right? So that's probably something that you should be considering once you're working on your project. And now that we're done with a project section, let's actually move on and let's start working on the next section. And the next section we're going to be building is going to be about us section. And since this section is going to be very small, we're going to right away add this filler section. So let's go back over here and we're going to go to index.html and let's see where the project ends. And we're going to say over here about section. Copy and paste this comment over here. And we're going to say over here end of about. And then once we have an about, let's right away create a filler section. So here we're just going to copy these two lines over here like this. And over here we're going to say filler section and end of filler section. And for the filler is going to be very simple. We're just going to say section with a class of filler. And for the about, we're going to have a section. Class is going to be about like this. Then this is going to be actually, we're going to call this a card. Right, so I'm going to create over here this card. And I'm going to say that this is going to be a div with a class of about card. Now we can also do an article. Let's maybe do better than div. Let's do article. And let's do article with a class of about card. Article, about, and we're going to say card. Press tab. Now that we have an article, we would want a heading 3 over here like this. And we're going to say about us. Press tab. Now we have our heading 3. Then after that, we would want a font awesome. So we're going to say FAS over here and FA car over here like this. Now, once we have this over here, now I would want a paragraph. So I'm going to say paragraph. And over here, let's do lorem. Let's say dummy text of like, let's say 60 words. Right? Maybe 60 was a little bit drastic. Let's do it like 30 over here. Press tab. And over here, again, press tab. Now we have our dummy text. Now that we have done with this, we obviously need to go to main CSS and actually style it. So over here, we can save the HTML. We can go back to main CSS, start over here a new line. Say over here about us, about or about us, however you would want. Over here like this, and we're going to create again another full screen over here like this, and then let's write a few things. And so first is going to be class about, then we're going to have a min height 100 view heights over here. So what we're saying is for the about section we would want actually 100 view heights over here like this. Then after that we're going to say padding is going to be 100 pixels top, bottom, 0 to the sides. Now we would want a image. So over here I'm going to say background URL, again in the images. Again, I'm going to find out where is my image that I saved as a about background. Right? So this is going to be my image. And here you can see that how it is repeating. Right? So that's why we're using a no repeat. So again, we're going to use a center. Then we're going to have a cover. Right? So first the position is center and it's actually covering. Then after that we're going to have a fixed, and then after that we're going to have a no repeat over here. So now that we have set our image, now it actually would want to center the card. Right? So over here right now we cannot see it, but this is actually the card. And the way we can actually see the card, let's do it like this. I'm going to say about card, and I'm just going to add a background color so we can see better. And over here, we're going to write RGBA, and again, we're going to use a white one. Right, so 255, 255, 255, 0. Let's say 6, right? And over here. Now, it is hard, right? but you can see over here, this is going to be our card. So here what we're going to do. First, we're going to say display, and we're going to say flex. All right, so now we're saying display flex. Then we're going to have a justify content center, right? Which doesn't matter right now because it's a small screen. But next, what we're going to say is align items. I'm going to say center over here like this, right? So now you can see this is going to be our card. And now we set it vertically and also horizontally. Then we're going to continue with an actual card. And over here, what we're going to say first is text align center. Right, so now we're setting the text center. And let's add some padding. Let's add padding of 60 pixels, right? Top, bottom, and 40 pixels left, right. Then the next thing that I would want to do is actually go ahead and style the heading 3, right? So we're going to leave it for now like it is, right? We're going to add all our styles once to actually we're going to be styling for responsiveness. And over here, we're going to say like this. We're going to say about card and heading 3. About, over here, card, and we're going to say heading 3. Here, we're going to say font size 40 pixels, right, like this. Text transform, we're going to say capitalize over here. And next, we would want to work with this font awesome. So I'm going to say about, again, card. And over here, we're going to say FAS. I'm sorry, FA car, over here like this. And we're going to say font size 60 pixels. Then we're going to have a color. Color is going to be red 1 over here, right? So this is our red color. Then we're going to have a margin, 20 pixels top, bottom, 0 on the sides. Now that we're done with this, the last thing that I would want is line height for the paragraph. So I'm going to say about card, paragraph, line height. Let's do again 2, just so we can see, right, that it is happening. Now once we have the line height, now I'd want a responsiveness. So for the small screen, we're fine with this, right? We're actually fine how it looks like. However, once we go to the bigger screen, I'm going to say over here media, screen, and over here min width, over here like this. And we're going to say 776 pixels, over here like this. And we're going to say about card. And here what we're going to say is once the actual screen gets bigger, right? Or here, once it gets bigger than 776, we're going to say max width. We're going to say not height, but width. For the about card, we're going to say 50%, right? Again, we cannot see this right now because obviously we need to make the screen bigger. So let's save this. Let's go to our recording. Let's refresh and let's see what we have, right? So here we have a about us. And remember this guy? Remember when we had a justify center, right? Justify content center and center. So this is why we have it over here. Now, if I'm going to go back and let's say justify center, which we cannot see over here right now, right? Let's save this and let's refresh. Sure enough, you can see it's over here, right? So we have multiple ways. We could have done it over here with a margin, 0 and auto, or we can use the Flexbox, right? It doesn't really matter whichever way you prefer. I'm just showing you the possibilities of the Flexbox, so it's really up to you. Then once we have this, now we'd want a border radius, and we're going to set it to 30 pixels. So I'm going to say over here, border radius, and we're going to say 30 pixels. Right, so we're going to make rounded edges. And again, it's only going to be on the bigger screen. So don't try to find it over here because it's not going to work. And then the next thing that we would want to do is for the paragraph. Again, we wouldn't want it to be, you see over here like this, right? Basically, what I would want for a paragraph is just to be more over here in the center, right? Not spanning so wide. So I'm going to say over here about card, paragraph, and max width, I'm going to say 70%, then margin, right? 0 auto. So like I said, this would be the other way how you can actually style it in a center, right? If this case we used parent justify content, in this case we're just setting for the whole element by margin 0 auto. Over here, refresh. And over here now we can see that we have 70. And this is how we can make an about section, and we can right away do the filler section. Let's just do a comment over here like this, filler, and another hashtag over here. And just to show you, right, that if we had an about section, this was our filler, right? So this was the HTML that we're styling. And over here, like I said, this is going to be very, very straightforward. Class filler over here. And what we would want, first we would want a min height 60 view heights over here, right? So now we have white background, and over here we're going to have the same thing, just with different image, right? So we can do it a little bit of trickery over here. We can actually copy this over here, copy and paste it over here, and if this was an about, I should have a filler, right? So now this is my filler. And again, the nice thing over here is this parallax effect, right? As we're scrolling, you can see how it looks like. Then once we're done with this, we actually would want to go and let's see it on a bigger screen. And then let's actually look at a next section that we need to build, right? So if this was our projects, this was about us, and now this is our filler section. Now, obviously, you can see this is the end of document. So what do we have left? Well, actually, we have left a contact us section and a filler section. And again, because filler section is so small, we're going to do them, both of them together, because I don't think that it's going to be confusing for you. So let's go ahead and let's build our last two sections. And over here, the first one is going to be a contact section. So here we're going to write like this, that this is going to be contact section over here. And we're right away going to write that this is going to be the end of contact section. And then we're going to have a footer here. So we're going to say footer section. Then in the contact, we're going to start with, again, section. And we're going to write over here, class contact, right? Press tab over here. Then again, we're going to have a contact card. So I'm going to say article, and we're going to say contact card over here. Once we have this, now in the card, we would want to place a form. So I'm going to say form, and within the form, the first thing that I'm going to say is I'm going to first delete the action, because we're not going to be attaching any kind of database. However, I'm going to say over here, heading 3. This is going to be contact us over here. And then we're going to have a few inputs. I'm going to have two inputs, one text area and one button. So input over here. Then we'll have a tab. So this is going to be text. Then ID is going to be name over here, like this, name. Then we're going to have a placeholder. And over here, this is going to be your name. So we're going to write over here, your name over here. Then we can just copy and paste this over here. And let's say over here, we're going to write not type text. This is going to be actually email. And over here, we're going to write, this is going to be your email, right? And maybe let's just use a beautify, just so it looks a little bit better. Then we have text area, plus tab, text area. And now we're going to have a name over here. We can just say that this is going to be, I don't know, comment. Then columns 30, rows 10, that's fine. Place comment and placeholder. Placeholder, we're going to say, I don't know, leave a comment. And then we're going to have a button, right? So still within the form, we're going to say button. And here we're going to write type. Submit, right? Now once we have this over here, let's add a class, and we're just going to call it a form btn, right? And here we're going to write submit over here like this. Now that was HTML for the form, and then we can right away go and add for the footer. So for the footer, we're going to say footer, and the footer is not going to have any kind of classes. Here we're going to say footer icons over here. And the way we can actually work with footer icons, we don't need to recreate them, right? Remember when we had a banner, and we remember when we had banner icons? What we can do over here is like this, right? So I'm just going to copy this over here. We can maybe delete even this. Now these weren't going to be banner icons, we're going to call them footer icons, right? So we're going to style them ourselves, but the icons are going to be exactly the same. And let's over here underneath a div, we're going to have a text. We're going to say copyright over here, and we're going to say copyright. And for the copy, maybe we can do it like this, right? So we can say copy over here like this, and then let's say that this is going to be fast over here and faster, and let's say dot, and let's say all rights reserved, right? Reserved. And that's it for the HTML. We can save this over here. Now when this is done, let's go to main CSS and let's start styling it. So if this was a filler, this is going to be hashtag contact, another hashtag over here. Then we right away can add for the filler, right? So I'm sorry, for the footer, not for the filler. And over here, we're going to have hashtag footer, more hashtags over here. Delete maybe too many O's. And in the contact, what we would want is, first of all, set the minimum height. So I'm going to say over here, contact. And over here, what we're going to write is min height, 80, over here, view heights, over here like this, right? So this is going to be for the contact. Then we're going to have a background, and we're actually going to use the same background that we used for about. So what we can do over here, again, copy and paste, and over here we can do it, right? So we're going to copy and paste. So now this is going to be our contact section, and this is over here our footer. Then once we have this, now again, I would want to style this box using CSS Flexbox, right? But again, let's do first the actual background so we can see what we're doing. So here I'm going to say contact, and remember the article contact card, yeah? And first the background, and background, let's do RGBA 0000.6, which is black over here like this, right? So now it's all black. And let's go back over here and use the Flexbox. So first we're going to say display flex, right? Again, remember that this is for the parent container, right? So we get this funny looking box right now. Then we're going to say again, justify content center, right? So you see how we placed it in the center. And then align content, align items, sorry, center, right? Again, now we're aligning everything center. Now once we have this, let's actually go ahead and start working over here with this child, right? Because this is a child of the parent container, right? Contact card is the child. So here as a child, we can say flex, and we can say it like this. We can say don't grow, don't shrink. However, the basis value, have it for 80%, right? So you saw how little gap was over here, right? And now when we set it to 80, right, and we can comment this out just so you can see, right? Now with 80, you can see what happens, right? So this is another way we can actually use a flex properties for children to actually have the widths. So here I'm going to say padding 40 pixels, right? Top, bottom, and sides we're just going to leave it like the way it is, right? Then in the actual parent container, right, we can make this one a parent container. So it is a child of the actual contact section. However, it can be a parent for the form. So we're going to do over here, we're going to say display, and we're going to say flex again, right? Then we're going to say justify content. We're going to say again center. Then we're going to say align items, again center over here. Now what we want now is to go and actually style the form. So the form over here like this, first thing that we need is actually for the child. So we're going to say flex, and again we're doing the same thing. So I'm going to say 0, 0, and 60%. Right? So basically I'm doing the same thing. So I had the first parent, then I had the child, now I have the second one. Right? So the same, it can be a child and a parent, and we keep on applying the flex properties. Now once we have this, what I would want is actually over here for this form, right? I'm going to continue. I'm going to say display, and I'm going to say flex again, right? But the flex direction, we're going to say flex direction, and we're going to say column. And that's it. And now we have everything perfectly percentage-wise how we want it, right? And since this is the column, they're going to be stacking up over here vertically. And now, only thing left really to do is just go ahead and add some margins and some styles over here. So we're going to say over here, this is going to be form, input, over here, margin, we're going to say 10 pixels, right? So 10 pixels over here, at only top bottom, right? So the sides, we can just leave it the way they are. Then we're going to have a heading 3. So let's maybe add a lot more room so we can actually work over here. So we'll say form, heading 3 over here, text align, I'm going to say center, then text transform uppercase, text transform uppercase. Then we're going to have a color, and now we need the red color. And since I already copied some stuff in between, now I would need to find it, right? I mean, I can type it, but I'm just don't feel it right now. I'm just kind of lazy. So I'm going to be a little bit annoying, and I'm going to go and find where's the actual color. And you can see that I don't have much luck over here. I just keep scrolling and probably missed it already a few times over here. And again, we just keep on going, and for some reason we cannot find it. So over here, let's do this guy. All right, so we're going to copy this one, and we're going to go over here, and we're just going to say copy and paste. And now we have the red color. Then after that, once we have the color, now we'd want a form, input, dot, and form text area over here. Now what I would want padding 5 pixels. All right, so top bottom over here 5 pixels. Then border, and border we're going to say 3 pixels, solid, and over here we're going to say again we're going to use the red color over here like this, right? So now they get the colors. Then what we would want to do is over here work with this text inside. Right, you see the text over here. We would want to work with this. We're going to say input dash over here colon placeholder and comma, and again input colon placeholder, right? But instead of input, let's write over here text area, right? And this is going to be the placeholder. Now for this one, we're going to say text transform uppercase. Now you can see that all the capital letters, and then color. And color, we're going to use a 0D1317 over here like this, right? Save it, and now basically it's a red, black color. And now over here, the last thing in the form, we want a button, right? So we're going to say form, btn. And over here, we're going to write a margin 20 pixels all around. Then we're going to say a font size 20 pixels. Then we're going to have a border radius. Border radius is going to be 40 pixels. So we're going to make a round edges over here. And then we're going to have a padding 5 pixels over here. Then background, again, we're going to use a red color over here like this. Color, we're going to use a hashtag F5, F3, F5 over here like this. And then we're going to have a transition where basically as I'm hovering, the colors are not changing right away, right? It's going to happen over time. So transition. And over here, we're going to say color, and we're going to say 1 second. and we're going to say ease again. And also we can say background over here, and also 1 second. And just to show you that there's other options, in out, right? And the same, let's write over here, in out. Right, so we're not limited just ease, right? We have ease in and out also. That's one of the options. Those are not the only two, but anyway. So now that we have this, let's go back over here and let's say form btn colon hover, and we're going to say color over here, right? So now the color is going to be red and the background is going to be white. So here, let's do over here, semicolon, background over here, and this is going to be hashtag F5, F3, F5, right over here like this. So once we have this, now you can see what happens, right? As I'm hovering, again, the button is going to change the color, but it's happening over time. And like I said to you over here, you have also option of delay. So let's say 2 seconds, and let's say over here 2 seconds. So now let's save this, and now you can see it doesn't happen right away. We're waiting 2 seconds, and then it only happens, right? So let's see again, right? So nothing happens, 2 seconds, and then it actually goes. So again, we're not going to be using delay right now, right? We're just going to leave it the way it is. And now we have 3 more rules for the footer. So here we're going to say footer, and you know what, we actually made it already. So let's just create space over here. And for the footer, what we would want for the footer, first we would want a background. So I'm going to say footer and background, and the background is going to be black. So hashtag 0D1317 over here like this. Then we'll have a padding 60 pixels over here and 0. So 60 top, bottom, and side 0. Then we'll have a text align center over here like this. So it's sitting exactly in the center. And now let's start working with footer icons. So I'm going to say footer or your icons, A, right? So basically what I'm saying is that I want to work with these links, right? And if we remember, we changed these ones, right? We had footer icons and now we have links. So we go back over here. First, we're going to say display inline block over here like this. Then we'll have a font size 30 over here. Then we'll have margin 0. That's going to be the top. Then over here, we're going to have a 10 pixels over here, right? This is going to be right. And then over here, this is going to be 20 pixels over here like this. Now we also need to add, if we have a 10 over here, and over here, this is going to be the 20. Now let's maybe change some things around, right? So we don't want any margin on the top, right? We want only on the right, 20 in the bottom, and over here 10 also. All right, so this is going to go around the circle. Then we're going to have a padding, and let me delete this. This is going to be a padding. Padding is going to be 2 pixels over here and 5 pixels. All right, so left and right, this is going to be 5 pixels. Border radius, this is going to be 5 pixels. Background, we're going to set it as a white. So F5, F3, F5, here like this. And the color is again going to be black one. Hashtag 0D1317, or here like this, right? So this is going to be the black color. Now, what I would want for a paragraph, I'm going to say over here footer, paragraph, and over here we're going to write color, hashtag F5, F3, F3, F5, or here like this, F, right? Now you can see that it's white, and color over here, font size, let's do 20 pixels. 20 pixels. Let's save this over here, and now this is our recording. All right, so if we refresh, this is going to be our contact, this is going to be our footer. And this is how we can create website for imaginary car company, where we have a responsive navbar and responsive website using CSS Flexbox and CSS Grid.